Hello and welcome to another episode of Tales from a Professional Nerd. My name is BryanCPSteele and I will be your nerd today and any other day that you watch one of my silly little shows. So, it has been a hectic month, a crazy month, a month filled with YouTube lives, a month full of podcasts and interviews and Kickstarters. But it's time now to take a look at the week in Bryan, and then we're going to move into other topics. We'll get into that momentarily. For now, the week in Bryan. Let's see. Let's start with gaming. I have been playing a ton of one of my dear friends, one of my best friends in the whole wide world. We play Xbox. He lives several states away, and we play Xbox every other week on a scheduled day for us to get together and maintain our friendship. I love him to death. He is my brother from another mother, and the last time we got together to play, I asked, he was like, "What?" We tend to get into ruts. Like we'll be like, "Let's play this D&D game for a long time," or "Let's play Sea of Thieves for a long time," and then we'll do that until we just drive it into the ground, or until something happens where we decide that maybe a different game is for us. And it had occurred to us that it's been a while since we've changed up. So I had asked him, I was like, "What do you want to play tonight?" And he goes, "Let's do the Game Pass Roulette." And I'm like, "What is Game Pass Roulette?" And it's basically where you just randomly pick a game that is playable free on Game Pass through the Xbox, and you give that a try. And so last week we did a Game Pass Roulette, and we ended up on the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge arcade-style game. And if I don't have the words for the nostalgia rush that I got from playing this game. I know it's not the exact same game from my childhood, but it had that same feel, and it has the same kind of graphics, and it is just a side-scrolling beat up the Foot Clan, play with your friends. We ended up not only playing Shredder's Revenge for several hours, but my wife, who does not play very many video games because a lot of like first-person shooters and stuff make her very motion sick, joined us. One of Bryan's daughters joined us. We actually were playing 4 different turtles. We had the whole team. It was great. It was super fun, so we had a blast. And then a couple of days later, I was sitting down. I had a few free hours to myself to just sort of de-stress and relax, and I was like, you know what, I'll do my own Game Pass Roulette. And I found a game that I went, wait, what the heck is this? I found Gears Tactics. For the people who play video games, if you've played Gears of War 1 through 5, there's a really cool story. It's very deep about, it's not like deeply philosophical deep, but it's got a lot of turns and twists and things. Well, Gears Tactics is not a first-person shooter. It's actually a turn-based kind of top-down squad game, like almost like XCOM, and it's fantastic. The engine is great. The graphics are amazing, and I got sucked in immediately because I realized that it takes place where it's supposed to in the story, and there are characters and events that I know from the first person shooters that are being referenced, and it's really cool. It's just I've really been sucked in, and so almost every night for at least like an hour I get like a mission or two in. It's a very fun game, and I think that if you are even remotely interested in the universe, or if you just really liked like XCOM or top-down squad games, check it out. You should. It's really good. Let's see. So tonight I got to very randomly while I was actually playing video games. My very very good friend Sarah Moore over at Gen Con TV. She hosts Sarah's Table, which is a fun little role playing game show that they throw on a lot of random games, a lot of small, kind of indie games and things. And so she reached out and goes, "Hey, I've got a game that we're gonna play this weekend, or that we're gonna put on the show this weekend. I'd love for you to be part of it." And so I made space in my schedule, and so tonight, June 2nd, at I think 7 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. I'm not sure. You have to head over to the Gen Con TV Twitch to find out when exactly Sarah's table is. I'm gonna put the link in the description. But we played a fun game called what was it? So You Want to Be a Mothman? I think is or How to Be a Mothman. It's a really, really cute independent game, and we had a lot of fun. So you should totally go check it out if you're interested. And then myself, I actually have one of my D&D games this weekend, where I play the little Brad Pitt halfling drunken boxer, which that we haven't played in a little over a month for that game, so that'll be fun. It's always nice to I don't get together with my Indianapolis friends nearly as often as I'd like, so yeah, it'll be fun. And then we also my family played a new board game that we got in a Kickstarter called Casting Shadows from Unstable Games, and it's unlike a lot of their games. Well, I shouldn't say unlike. A lot of their games are very much, you are trying to be the person who achieves a particular goal. You're trying to beat the other players, but very rarely are they directly like, I'm trying to kill my opponent. And this one is. It's definitely three. In this case, there were three of us playing, and it is definitely a take out the opponents, do the damage, do the thing, and my wife ended up winning. But it's fun. You play a little, basically like shadow imbued sorcerer wizard in their cool the Unstable Games world, which I had an idea, and I sent myself a message, and I'm gonna send my boss a reminder at some point. Their world, the Unstable Games world, the world of Here to Slay and Casting Shadows and the Unstable Unicorns games, are it is such a rich world without being a world. They've done such a great job of creating an amazing fantasy setting without actually making an amazing fantasy setting. I really kind of want to reach out to them and see if it's doable, if it's something that maybe another game company might be able to talk to them about using their cool IP to create a role-playing game. I think it'd be awesome. But I digress. For all I know, they may very well already have that in their plans. I don't know. That's pretty much all the gaming that I did. Personal, officially, I have started going back to exercising, and it is as the day of this recording, I am officially going to be cutting the carbs again, and stop sneaking it and being like, oh, I'll put it off a week, I'll put it off a week. I'm gonna make it happen. Yes, there will be cheat days. There has to be for your metabolism to do what it needs to do, but I'm going to stop talking myself into having 2 or 3 cheat days a week. It needs to be more like once every 2 weeks, once every 15 days, something like that. But I need to get back into shape. I have waited long enough. It's getting into the summer months. It's getting into convention season. People are going to be seeing me more often, and yes, it's vain. I don't want to look like a potato, but it's also for health reasons. I do want to be able to stay more active. In fact, actually later today after this filming, I am going to the sleep apnea center here in Lafayette, Indiana, to get my sleep machine thing finally. And everybody I've talked to says that's going to help a great deal too. So June 1st really kind of marked the point for me to go. It's time. It's time to, you know, get your stuff together, get your head screwed on straight, and start taking it seriously instead of it being an afterthought. So, fans, friends, gamers, I'm going to need you to help me stay on it if possible. It is sadly an expensive lifestyle, the low carb lifestyle. Nothing is cheap. Meat, cheese, and low carb, like sciencey foods. It is not cheap, but you know, we'll see what's up. You know, on that note, I do have to say thank you to I'm gonna say you're an anonymous donor. I know that you are not. You sent me a message saying that I needed to check my Cash App. Thank you. Thank you for the donation to the channel. In fact, that is probably going to go to possibly trying to get a new rig, some kind of overhead camera rig for the hobby section, because I've tried now to do a couple of different hobby videos, and the connection is awful. The video comes out just terrible. So I need to figure something out. Not that you guys are tired of seeing my face, but just to be able to do some more hands-on painting, especially in the coming months where you know, we start seeing some, you know, Warzone figures and stuff, because the Warzone Kickstarter just ended in a great success. We unlocked pretty much everything that we wanted to, and then some. We even came up with a few things to help things along as we go. There's some great fiction that's going to be available. Not to beleaguer the. I was going to talk about this. You know what? Let's leave personal behind and go into work stuff. So work stuff. The Warzone Eternal Kickstarter ended in a great success. We got everything unlocked that we really wanted to. We added some things to help the process along, and now it just comes down to us. You know, now the hard work begins. Now it's us actually putting together the product, getting the rules completely, you know, finalized, getting that first round of stat cards finalized. Getting that stuff out to backers, getting that stuff to the printers, figuring out boxes. You know, I mean, like there's a lot of work to put into this, especially for a small company. But we are all super happy, very ecstatic. And then here in just a couple of weeks, we've got Origins. Alex and I are going to be at Origins with our demo models and everything. Speaking of which, I got to finish painting my Capital ones. But we're gonna be there to have a good time and push some minis around and show people how to play, get late backers if needs be. I'm very proud of how things went, especially considering how last year it was our false start attempt. How it worked, but it obviously didn't work like we wanted it to. This one is a completely different animal. It was, despite it being the same game after just a few tweaks, the few things that we changed as per the actual campaign itself really shined. And now we get the cool responsibility / benefit of showing, you know, getting these models out to the world and getting people to play these games, and seeing a community grow from the beginning. So I'm super excited. Expect to see more, obviously, about Warzone Eternal on this channel. I know for the last month it's been almost constantly Warzone Eternal, but that was because the Kickstarter's going. So expect to see more down the road. I'll probably be showing off some things and give some hints and teases here and there. But overall, we're going to be in production mode now for the next several months to get this ball rolling and make it happen. So thank you if you were a backer. And if you were not a backer but you're interested, the late backer, the Kickstarter is still open for you to jump into the late backing system. And even after the late backer stuff, the backer surveys and everything go out, and the late backer thing closes down, you're still going to be able to buy all these things through retail and through the Resnova website. So that was the goal. The goal was to make this a sustainable effort, and it definitely is. So again, thank you very much. I spent a lot of time during my Memorial Day this week working on my next Shadowrun novel. That's shaping up to be a fun story. I can't get into it because it has actually to do with the meta of the Sixth World Shadowrun story that's going to be unfolding. So I can't really talk about it, any cool scenes or anything. But it does give me an opportunity to write about some things that in Shadowrun have not gotten a lot of light. So it'll be fun. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm excited to see where this goes, and I'm excited to see what people think about it. Then again, I always am. My novel work. I love telling stories, and I love when people read them and see them and go, "Oh, this was cool." Let's see what else. Oh yeah, Evil Genius Gaming. So I believe I have a title. My official title, I believe, was told to me as I'm an executive producer. I'm a writer designer, but like my actual title on the business card is the executive producer of science fiction lines, I believe. Which there's a little bit of leeway there because there's some of the science fiction titles that we have that I had nothing to do with, and they're already so far in progress that having a new producer step in and be like, yes, let me get my fingerprints on that, it's kind of disingenuous to the whole situation, and I'm not going to put my name on something that I didn't help with. I don't think that that's right. It shouldn't pad my CV. My resume shouldn't get padded with products that other people slaved over, and I just basically stepped in the last minute and was like, yes, this is nice. No, so don't expect that for some of the current projects, but the upcoming ones and the ones that are in motion. Are definitely I'm getting to a chance to do a lot of that stuff, to not just write it but help others see what we're going to deal with the the licensing issues, and it's a lot of fun. I'm excited for my position at Evil Genius on multiple levels, not just job stability and all that stuff, but it is very interesting being in that sort of starter ground, not really the ground floor, because as a company, Evil Genius has been around for a couple of years, but definitely we've got some very cool plans to make our mark in the next couple of years, and it is very cool to be part of that. And the owner, a fabulous gentleman by the name of David Scott, he has been nothing but awesome when it comes to integrating me into the process, asking my opinion on things, really utilizing my 20 years in the industry. It's very refreshing to not feel. I was in a business meeting with some other developers and designers and things at Evil Genius last week, and in the middle of the meeting, I realized that I kind of piped in and I said my piece about something, and it occurred to me that back in the day when I was at like Privateer Press, or even to a certain degree some of the times I was at Cool Mini or Not, is when I was in a room full of my peers, a lot of times those peers were people that I either looked up to or had way more seniority in the industry. So there was just a natural, well, I'm going to listen to them because they've been here, they've done that, they know what's going on. Hopefully they'll listen to my feedback and my ideas and make me part of the team. But I definitely didn't feel like I was a leader in the team by any stretch. And I had a meeting last week that about halfway through, I was making some comments, and some of the responses that I was getting from other members of the team, I had that kind of like evolution of thought, that clarity of that clarity moment that made me go, I've been doing this long enough now that I'm the old guy in the room. And I don't mean that as a derogatory, like, I'm old. It's I'm the seasoned veteran in the industry. There are things that I can say and there's things that I can add to the conversation that someone else can now benefit from, and the project can benefit from it. Um, which was a very humbling and an almost sobering thought. That 15 years ago, I would have listened to me where I am now, if that makes any sense whatsoever. So yeah, basically, I'm just really excited. The Evil Genius gig is what turned out, what spawned from a taco and a few drinks at Gamehole Con with a buddy of mine, has now turned into what I really do think is going to be a lasting part of my career. Um, yeah, I'm super excited. Which is why today we are dedicating the rest of this episode to talking about one of the products that we actually have, that we as Evil Genius have at Kickstarter right now, active for the next, I believe by the time this comes out, it'll be like the next 6 days. So right there at the end, and of course late backing and all that. So it is a role playing game. But let me start. I'm going to do a real quick, broad strokes talk about Everyday Heroes before I get into the actual project that I'm talking about today. So Everyday Heroes is a compilation of new modern rules that use kind of the D&D 5e basis. Like there's obviously, you read through and you're like, oh, okay, this, here's advantage, here's disadvantage, your skill checks, uses the base 7 dice roll system. It's a level based system. So there's a lot of familiarity. If you know how to play D&D 5e, you will be able to fake it till you make it with Everyday Heroes. There are some distinct differences. There's different ways how armor works. The concept of hit points is a dramatically different. The system is the same, but it's different in how it's narratively applied to the scenes. Characters only level up through level 10. And multi-classing is handled through feats rather than actually taking levels in other classes. It's a really good system that has a nice kind of core mechanic, or core set of rules that lets you create a role-playing game set in the modern era, or even maybe like a sci-fi era, or there's definitely a line drawn. Yes, you could technically use these rules to play like in a fantasy setting, like D&D, hardcore D&D, but it's obviously designed more in mind for at least like industrial age forward. Like you could do a cool like maybe Victorian era game, or like like the actual industrial revolution. That might be kind of cool. You play a game like a bunch of union. You could play like the gangs of New York with using these rules. It's really really cool. It's a great system, and it's very thorough. The book, the main book, the Everyday Heroes core rulebook is huge, and part of that is because it covers pretty much everything that you need to run a game, including one of my favorite aspects of it. And I know that it's kind of tongue in cheek, but in the back where all like the NPCs, the appendices, where the NPCs and the monsters and all that stuff are, because it's a modern setting. Your monsters aren't normally goblins and orcs and things like that. More often than not, it's criminals. If you're playing a criminal game, it's police. It could be spies and counter spies. There's a lot of. It's not so much monsters as it is just threats, opposing forces that could get in your way and stymie you as a protagonist. But there's sections in that NPC that NPC appendice that if you wanted to play a game where everybody's being hunted by this really scary interstellar hunter guy, there's rules for him. If you wanted to play a game where you are a bunch of colonial armed forces going to a place that has been infested by these horrible alien bug things, there's rules for that. If you want to scale it back some and play in like feudal Japan, there's rules for that. So they did a really cool job of if you want to do a robot apocalypse, there's rules for that. There's a really cool way of you going. If someone was sitting there and be like, I've always really wanted to play a Terminator game. I've wanted to, even if it's just like a one shot at a convention where everybody's being chased by this one Terminator and, hopefully we live through the night or whatever. You could use these rules to do that and adjust the monster to be as Terminator-esque as you'd like or whatever. It's a really, really cool system. I like the fact that it's recognizable for people who play 5e, and I like the fact that it is just generic enough that you could play what are you playing? We're playing an Everyday Heroes game. And then it's up to the game master to decide, is it, are you playing your version of Fast and the Furious? Are you the family that everything is about? Are you playing an Aliens style game where you're a bunch of colonial marines, or maybe you're the colonists? These are things that you can do with this book, with these rules. And I think that it has a lot of potential. And there's a reason why Evil Genius has a bunch of what we call cinematic adventures attached to Everyday Heroes that allows you to basically, kind of like how that the NPC appendix has, if you wanted to run a Predator game, here's this. If you wanted to run an Alien game, here's this. It's the cinematic adventures are ways for us to expand on that. So instead of just saying, use these modern rules to play a jungle war scenario from back in like the 70s, you buy the Rambo cinematic adventures and apply a bunch of very specific, whereas the Everyday Heroes rule set allows you to do that just fine. The Rambo Cinematic Adventures book allows you to make it specific for that genre, for that world, and that includes we've got the Crow, Highlander, King Kong, Skull Island, Total Recall. Yeah, there's a bunch of Escape from New York. We announced that some of those are being played at Gen Con. So like these are specific worlds that we apply a bunch of very specific, setting rules to the Everyday Heroes thing. Introduce new classes and stuff and all that, but it's still at its core is the Everyday Heroes, and that includes my current passion project that is at Kickstarter right now. It's actually, so the Kickstarter we're running right now is a shared Kickstarter because it's two legendary, so like two IPs from the legendary movie studio, at King Kong Skull Island and Pacific Rim. So now we actually had put out the Cinematic Adventures book for those already, and so that means that there's already a rule set, there's already an adventure out there. But what the Kickstarter actually covers is a cinematic adventure path, which is a self-contained, all you need is the Everyday Heroes book and this product to run a series of adventures to take your players from first level characters all the way through till their effective retirement and 10th level. It includes all the rules and stuff you need, while there might be players and GMs that would love to have the cinematic adventure, the actual, like, the original Cinematic Adventures, like, source book. There's definitely cool stuff in there that you can apply to the cinematic path, but you don't need to have it. The essential rules that we had in those source books, we've made sure that if you've got the Everyday Heroes book, you can use the cinematic adventure path. You can use the adventure path product with just the Everyday Heroes. There's enough of the specific rules already applied that we make sure that that are there, and we explain them as they go. I won't talk much about Kong Skull Island. That's actually someone else's project, but it does look really, really cool. It sounds awesome. He walked the other producer, Michael. He walked me through what that cinematic adventure path pertains, and it's really neat. If you're a King Kong fan, especially if you liked the concept of this kind of island out of time that Skull Island is, you should totally check it out. Whereas Dominion of Iron, which is the cinematic adventure path for Pac Rim, is my baby, is what I'm putting together. Pacific Rim is the cinematic, the actual source books have already been out, so there are a lot of people that already understand how this works. But for people who are just getting into it, people who back the Kickstarter, that sort of thing, I kind of wanted to go over the rough cut of what you can play if you've ever thought about role playing in this kind of world, what this means, what you can do. First and foremost, yes, you could play as any kind of character that you wanted. In Pacific Rim, you could be the scientist that's you could be the guy in the chair, so to speak. You could be the scientist. You could be a black market kaiju salesman. You could run a street level campaign, for lack of a better term. Boots on the ground kind of thing, and have the Jaegers and the kaiju sort of fighting in the distance. That's totally up to you. But we have made sure that there are rules for you to play, and we kind of expect, for like purposes of adventures and things, we kind of expect you to play as Rangers, as Jaeger pilots. And the way that works, not to get too deep into the actual mechanics, but you and another player make a pair of Ranger pilots that have been determined to be drift compatible. And you basically, together between the two of you, you create your Jaeger. You either use any of the existing stuff that we've got in the books, or you build mix and match some options and build your own. In fact, actually, we're coming out with a Jaeger engineering guide that's going to have a ton of options for you to build and fancify your own Jaeger. Um, but you basically share this giant robot, and what's cool about that is that there are rules for the drift. If you're thoughtful and you build your characters together, you build them as a team. Maybe they're family, maybe they're lovers, or maybe they just got stuck together in the academy because someone got hurt. There's different levels of drift strength, and then you make tests every time that you make the neural handshake and you connect each other to the machine. There's benefits and drawbacks depending on how strong that handshake is and whether or not you have time. It normally takes several minutes to fully neurally integrate. But there are times where we see it in the TV show or in the anime, we see it in the comic books where suddenly the monster is attacking and they don't have time to do a long-standing safe neural handshake, so they do an emergency drift. They do an e-drift, and there's rules for that. There's rules for hastily drifting together and being like, all right, we're gonna make the best of it. And then depending on how strong your drift is, you get bonuses to your because both of you, as you determine your skills, as you determine what you're doing in your giant robot, you both make rolls determining how successful it is. How did both of you succeed in this effort? The Jaeger responds. Did one of you succeed drastically better than the other? Did both of you fail? There's all these different options. Basically, it's a kind of a system within a system to run the Jaeger. And then also, because it would be very boring to just be a giant robot and be, I punch the kaiju punches me, I punch the kaiju punches me. There is rules for titanic combat. Basically rules for how, if you do have somebody in the normal scale with like a grenade launcher or something, can they hurt a kaiju? Can they bazooka? Can you get a line full of a lineup of soldiers with bazookas? Will they hurt the kaiju? Obviously, they managed to stop some of the smaller kaiju before the Jaeger program was started. So, tank guns and stuff, they can hurt them. So there's rules on making that happen. There's also rules specifically for the toxic nature of kaiju blue, their glowing blood. So yeah, if you're not running around in a Jaeger, there's totally a chance that you could get sick because you're dealing with all this goo. It's very thorough. The cinematic adventure sourcebook is very thorough, and it has one class that I think is very cool. Probably, I would say, one of the more advanced ideas. But so let's say that you had an odd number of players, and you've got 5 players at your table. The first 4 pair up to their drift pairs, leaving that last person with an option. Basically, you could play the guy in the chair, play the scientist. You could play, you could run a support Jaeger, which is much smaller. It's almost less a Jaeger and more like a construction robot that's small enough and compact enough for you to be able to run it with one brain instead of having a drift. But it is drastically less Jaeger than the giant combat bots, of course. But you still could do that if you wanted to be on your own. You could talk one of the other pairs into becoming a trio and putting in a third con pod and basically building your Jaeger to be one of the triple commands, making things a little harder in the drift, but also giving you some very cool options and some interesting side benefits for having three brains operating. And then there's one last option that the Pacific Rim Cinematic Sourcebook gives you, and that is for you to play twins. You actually play as one player. You play both of these persons. That they are so connected, that they're so drift connected twins that they're effectively one person when it comes to like personality, and you're like, yeah, you can change their personalities as you roleplay them, but you technically, as when they're in the Jaeger, they're so well tuned, they're so well connected, that allows you as one player to effectively play them together. It's really cool. It's a neat. It's a very very cool class, and I think that we'll see a lot more of that. Even heck, we might see a lot more of that with people like play. I play twins, and I wanted to grab a third person to put twins on a third in a trio pod. Uh, it'll be cool. It's very very neat. And then there's of course there's rules for Titanic combat. Different fighting at a different scale. Putting a map on the board and putting a couple of Jaegers and a couple of kaiju down. It's not the same as in a D&D game where you've got individual guys on little tiny squares. It's a much larger scaled up system, where you're battling back and forth. You're shooting missiles. You're hitting people into buildings. It's a really really cool setup. And sorry about that. We had technical difficulties. My computer mid record rebooted. It's just suddenly I'm just talking, and it just goes, and you're done for now. So now that it's several minutes later and we're back, I've completely lost my train of thought. But I know we were talking about kaiju and talking about Pacific Rim, the role playing game. I really do think that if you are even remotely a fan of giant monsters, whether it's King Kong or a another awesome giant set of monsters that people could get caught up in, or the Pacific Rim universe, like with specifically the kaiju's from the Antiverse and the precursors and all that. I think you could really get into some of the options that Everyday Heroes and these cinematic adventures can offer. Now, I've mentioned that the Kickstarter is ongoing currently, and if you are interested in something like the Pacific Rim role playing game, you can just get Everyday Heroes and the Adventure Path from the Kickstarter, and it'll be just fine. Give you all the cool stuff that you need to play the game. You could seek out the Everyday Heroes and then the actual cinematic adventure source book, giving you everything you need as well, plus an adventure in that to play. You have a lot of options, and I think that if you're a fan of those genres, if you're a fan of those settings, if you're a fan of giant monsters and giant robots duking it out, you should totally check it out. And that's not even just my personal bias in the fact that this is my game line. You should check it out because it's cool. It's a really very very cool system. A lot of really really interesting technologies that have yet to be revealed, and a lot of new monsters, just new cool monsters to pit against your heroes, whether or not they're clad in giant robots. Yeah, so I think that you should check it out if you're interested. And especially if you're remotely interested, you should check it out in the next couple of days through the Kickstarter, because there's a bunch of really cool stuff that is involved with the Legendary Bundle. Like neat dice, some cool dice bags, some miniatures of the Jaegers themselves. Yeah, so you should check it out. And until then, I totally forgot, because this is coming out in June. I get the express pleasure of announcing the comment raffle winner for May. The May comment raffle winner is a person by the name of Petros, who commented in episode 189. When this goes live, I will be sending you a message via YouTube, Petros, to tell you that you won, and for you to contact me with your information so I can send you your prize package, which, if for those of you who aren't aware, it is a random collection of things from the studio, game-related things, whether it's from my sponsors or from my personal collection. Sometimes they're one of a kind. Sometimes they are just something cool that I think that you might enjoy. And every time that you, as a subscriber, if you comment in one of the videos, you have an opportunity to win. It's as easy as that. So, until we meet again, please be safe. Get vaccinated. Wash your hands. Wear a mask if you have to. Get boosted if you're so inclined. Try and leave every room that you enter a little happier than when you got there, and I think the world would be a better place. So, until then, thank you for watching, and go out and play some games. See you in a week.